Hello everyone, welcome to your Easy Guide to English section for CLAT examination series. Today we are continuing with our vocabulary based module, and in this we are going to start with a new topic, that is one word substitutions. So as is clear from the name of the topic itself that one word substitution are defined as single words that may be used in place of a group of words that are used to denote a person, profession, an object, place, state of mind, attitude, anything. So they make your language more precise and more accurate. So there's a very good line in Hamlet, a play by Shakespeare, where a character called Polonius, he says, "Since brevity is the soul of wit, I will be brief." So the word brevity here means uh, short and quick language, very precise language. So since precision is the soul of wit, witty is being funny. In Hindi, we call it hazar jawabi. Like, in the like stand-up comics you see when they're interacting with the audience, they are very witty in their responses. They are very quick-witted. They are like very quick and funny at the same time. So that's being witty. So if you're very precise and if your selection of words is very precise and it's quick and it's short, then you can be more witty. So the character says, since the brevity is the soul of wit, I will be brief. That is, being precise is the soul of humor. So I will be precise and short. That is brief. So basically, one word substitution are very important in the language because they make your language more accurate. So rather than saying that a man who has a stethoscope in his around his neck and wears the white coat, you just say doctor. Now this is a very plain and simple example. We'll see some more sophisticated words in the later section of the lecture. So they are very important, and as a lawyer, your words are going to be your bread and butter. So you have to be very careful about choosing your words. So it's only fair that you have a very good command over vocabulary and you have a very good command over one word substitutions as well. So let's get into the topic now and let's try to make this as interesting as possible because there are going to be a lot of words, and I'll try to weave some stories around some of the words, but I cannot do it for each and every word. So you also, when you're revising these lectures, try to weave some stories of your own around each and every word so you can just remember them. Okay, so let's start with the first word, agnostic. So who is an agnostic? One who is not sure about God's existence. So you might have also heard of atheist, which is a more common term. So an atheist is a person who does not believe in God. An agnostic is a more diplomatic person, religiously speaking. He's like, I don't know whether God exists or not. So he's like, I can't be sure if he's there or not. So it's like before an exam, he'll be like, God, if you are there, please take care of me. An atheist would be like, I don't know, I know God is not there, and I do not believe in God. So he will not even talk to God before exam. He's like, there is no God. But an agnostic will be like God, see, like I am doing all the rituals and all, not that I believe in you, but I'm not sure if you're there, but just in case you're there, just take care of me. So an agnostic is somewhere in between. So a believer, an atheist, two opposite ends of the spectrum, and agnostic is somewhere in between. So somebody who's not sure about God's existence. A believer is one who believes in God. An atheist is one who does not believe in God. Agnostic is somewhere in between. Okay. Altruist. Altruist is a lover of mankind, somebody who is very helpful. A philanthropist can also be a synonym for it. So these are the people who really love mankind, are nice, kind-hearted people. So a helpful person also. So that's an altruist. Amateur, one who does a thing for pleasure and not as a professional. So amateur photographers, you see, there are people going around with DSLR cameras and just clicking pictures, posting on their Instagram. So they're not professional photographers, but they are doing this job as they derive pleasure in the activity. So it's not like they're professional, but these days everybody is a photographer. So they are amateur photographers, not professional, but just doing the thing for the sake of fun or the pleasure in it. Okay. Ambidextrous. So ambidextrous is somebody who can use their both the hands to write. So they are ambidextrous. So dexterous is skillful. A dexterous person is skillful, and MB is both. So ambidextrous, one who can use both his hands to write. So like left hand, right hand, both ways. Somebody who can use and do whatever work. Anarchist. Anarchist is one who is out to destroy all governments, peace, and order. So even Gandhi ji was called an anarchist because it is believed that he did not believe in government. Now that's a debatable issue, but I just brought his name just so you can remember this anarchist. So anarchist usually is used in negative sense. When I am talking about Gandhi ji, it is more of a I am it's more of a technical academic debate around it, because anarchist is also somebody like it's also anarchy is also a philosophy or an ideology. But anarchist in general sense is somebody who is more of a chaotic person and just wants to destroy everything that represents order. So anarchist is somebody who's leading to chaos. So in general terms, it is used in negative sense, but not when I said about Gandhiji. That's more of a political debate. Now, arbitrator, a person appointed by two parties to solve a dispute. So, arbitration courts are there in legal terms also. You must have come across arbitration. So, arbitrator is like when we don't, because the courts in India are already overburdened. There are so many cases pending with the courts, and they have their own procedures by which they have to follow in solving a case. So, there are courts for arbitration. So here a person is appointed by the two parties, is a neutral person, and he tries to solve the case. And if the cases are solved here, they do not have to go to court, and that saves a lot of time, resources, and money for the parties involved. So arbitrator, a person appointed by two parties to solve a dispute. Ascetic. Ascetic is a person who leads an austere life. Now, somebody who is like given up on worldly pleasure. So sometimes there are discussions around digital detox. People give up on social media, cell phones, laptops, and they think they are living a ascetic life because they are not using their cell phones and laptops or internet for that matter. That's also some sort of modern day ascetic life. But ascetic are people who live a very non-materialistic life. They are like living a very simple life. For example, the godly men, the sadhus that we see. So in the what was that called? So in the I mean, what do you call them? Like for example, Asaram Bapu is not an ascetic, but I cannot recall any other name. But people who try to portray a life like that, a very austere life, a very simple life, not full of any pleasures. I cannot recall any godman. Shit, never mind. But you get the sense what I'm trying to say by an ascetic life. People going in caves and meditating. These are the real ascetics. Okay, not the ones who are preaching on YouTube with so many hundreds of bikes and cars. So that's not an ascetic. So Asaram Bapu example was not what I meant to give. Anyway, atheist. So we discussed atheist, a person who does not believe in God. The antonym of atheist would be theist. Theist is a person who believes in God. A theist who does not believe in God. Agnostic who is not sure. Very diplomatic. Bankrupt. Bankrupt. So at this age, you should know because at this age you have no money and you're practically bankrupt. But in technical terms, bankruptcy is a state that is declared when you do not have enough money to pay your debts. So bankrupt, I mean, casually, poor people are called bankrupt. I mean, people in casual terms say not poor people are not called bankrupt, but it just means that you do not have enough to pay your debts. That's the technical meaning of bankrupt. But I'm saying that to just so you can remember, because like when we used to be in college and when we used to go to canteen, we would be like, oh, I am bankrupt. I don't have any money. You pay for the cold drinks today or whatever. So it's casually used in that term, but bankrupt technically means one who is unable to pay his debts. I think Anil Ambani had at one point declared bankruptcy. So yeah, somebody like him can also be called a bankrupt. Uh, a synonym of this word would be insolvent. Again, person who cannot pay his debts is an insolvent or bankrupt. So a lot of times these big businessmen they take a lot of loan. So that's a business loan, and if their business is not sustainable and they cannot pay back those debts by their business, they declare bankruptcy. Okay. Bigot. Bigot is a person who's filled with excessive enthusiasm in religious matters. Fanatic. A bigot is a more of a negative term. So somebody who's filled with too much enthusiasm in religious matter is not a very positive term. I mean, maybe from this line you're not getting the sense of it, but somebody who's extremist. So in the name of religion does so many objectionable things also. So an extremist kind of person. A fanatic is also synonym for the same. Religious fundamentalist can also be a synonym. So those are bigots. It's not a positive term. Bohemian. Bohemian is unconventional style of living. So if you can imagine a person with long hair and that band around their head with a guitar singing some ludicrous song, I mean some very unconventional kind of song, sometimes even morally objectionable, a hippie kind of person, if you know what a hippie is. So they are that style is unconventional kind of style. That's bohemian. Okay. So bohemian, every time you hear the word bohemian, think of that long hair guitarist. That's the picture that should come to your mind. A very unconventional style of living. Okay. The word cannibal. Cannibal is one who feeds on human flesh. So again, cannibals, you might have seen some shows on it. Cannibals who feed on human flesh, specifically human flesh. Carnivores are animals who feed on flesh. For example, tiger is a carnivorous animal. Herbivores are there, the animals who feed on plants and vegetables, vegetarian animals, herbivores. Chauvinist is a person who's blindly devoted to an idea. So chauvinists are, for example, there is a very colloquial term, male chauvinist pig. So it's derogatory terms for people, for especially males who are very sexist and they do not believe in female equality, or they are not very good towards women. So they are very blindly devoted to the idea of being male superiority. So that's one example of chauvinist. So generally chauvinists are is not, again, not a very positive term. Connoisseur, it's a French term word. I always tend to forget its pronunciation. Connoisseur, I think it's connoisseur, a critical judge of any art and craft. So somebody who is an expert and he or she knows the I mean that domain. Especially, it's mostly used in terms of arts and crafts. So somebody, for example, in wine tasting and all, somebody who knows what how wines are supposed to be. So they are, just imagine a very fashionista kind of person with a glass of wine in their hand, and they're tasting the wine and they're like swirling it and tasting it and giving some sort of commentary, oh, the flavors are not good enough or this and that. So somebody who's really good and has a very sophisticated taste and knows their art and craft. So that's connoisseur. Contemporaries, persons living at the same time. So this, again, you might have come across this term in history. So some king who is living in some other part of the world and another king who's, say, living in another part of world, and they've both lived in the same time period. So they will be called contemporaries. So contemporaries, people living at the same time period. So say a king who was ruling in 1800s in Iran and a king who was ruling in 1800s in say Europe. So both those kings in Iran and the Europe, they will be called contemporaries. Okay. Cosmopolitan, a person who he regards the whole world as his country. So cosmopolitan culture, there's a vaccine also by this name, cosmopolitan. So people in metro cities, they are very cosmopolitan because they do not believe in boundaries in the sense of lifestyles and all. So they regard that the whole world is one, and this similar kind of lifestyle exists. So that's a very cosmopolitan person. Cynic, one who sneers at the belief or others. So cynic is somebody who's very negative about things, and sneer at something means to look down upon other people's beliefs. So someone who looks down upon other people's belief and is very negative mentality person, cynic. A demagogue. A demagogue is a leader who sways his followers by his oratory. So again, it's a negative term. A demagogue is not a good leader. He's like manipulating his crowds, but he or she is very good in oration skills. Oration is communication skills in speaking. So a demagogue it's again a negative leader. He's somebody who's very good at manipulating people and swaying the crowds by his or her communication skills. Hitler could be called a demagogue because he was very good in his speeches, and people would be just blindly follow whatever he would say because he was so good in convincing people. So a demagogue. Dilettante, a dabbler, not serious in art, science, and literature. Again, somebody who's not, like, who's a novice, a newbie, who's not serious and serious kind of person. It's a dilettante. So it's mostly used in terms of art, science, and literature. Effeminate. Effeminate is a man who's womanish in his habits. So feminine, you see the word feminate. So feminine and femin is always used for women. So effeminate is used for a man, again in a negative sense, who has womanish habits. So effeminate. Egoist, a lover of oneself or of one's advancement. And the another similar sounding word, that's egotist, one who often talks about his or her achievements. So egoist is a person who's like always thinking about himself or herself. They're always uh, keeping their own self at the center. They think that the whole universe surrounds around them. So that's an egoist person. But an egotist person is also very similar, but there's a slight difference that they are always doing things to get some applauds for themselves. They're always talking about their achievements. So that's an egotist. Okay. So there's very slight difference. Both of them are like giving too much importance to their own self. But egoist is more deeper level kind of thing. They are just not aware of anything else. They just keep themselves at the center of universe. Egotist just wants to get praises from other people all the time. So boasting things. I gave away so much money in charity. So just people know this thing. So that difference. Emigrant. Emigrant is a person who leaves his country to settle in another country. So emigrant is a person who leaves his country. So in the country, in his own country which he has left, he will be called an emigrant. And the country in which he is living will be called immigrant. So somebody say who is an Indian and he leaves India and he goes to USA and starts living there. So he will be an immigrant in USA and emigrant in India. Okay. So exit. E say exit. He has exited India. So emigrant in India. And I say no, I say, what do you say? Immigrant. So just try to remember if emigrant, E exit. So uh, it's the person who has left the country, emigrant here, and I say immigrant. I cannot think of anything, but if you can, just try to make some story around that. And immigrant in USA. Epicure. So one who is for pleasure of eating and drinking. So I think in Delhi there is this few food court called Epicurean, something like that. So epicure is somebody who's like more interested in pleasure of eating and drinking. That's epicure. Fastidious, one hard to please, very selective in his habits. So fastidious. How can we remember the word fastidious? So he's like very fast, just leaving because he doesn't like anything, he or she. So it's very hard to please. It's very fast, just leaving around, fast, fast, fast. Because you have to like, it's very difficult to hold these people because they're very hard to please. Something like that. Fastidious, very selective in their habit and hard to please. Fatalist, one who believes in fate. So fate, kismat, your like fortune or like whatever how your future is going to be. So somebody who believes in fate that okay, whatever is written in my in my fate is going to be, whatever is written for the future is going to happen. That kind of belief system is a belief system of a fatalist, one who believes in fate. A fugitive. Fugitive is one who runs away from justice. So, say Vijay Mallya would be a fugitive. He's an economic offender. He could be called a fugitive in one sense, but I'm not very sure. But fugitive are generally more of Dawood Ibrahim kind of people who's like criminal and they're running away from justice. Fugitive. Gourmand, a lover of good food. So gourmand and gourmet. So while it is written as gourmet, there's a T at the end, but it's pronounced gourmet. So in Zomato also there is a category of gourmet food. Again, here connoisseur of food. That is somebody who knows about food, who's a foodie, who loves food. So gourmet section is that mean it's relatively more expensive, but apparently more tasty categories. So, say a biryani from some specific, very highly rated shop, that would be in the gourmet section. So, gourmet is somebody who is very foodie and a very uh, like an expert of food, who understands food, who knows, who loves food. So, that would be gourmet. Gourmand is again same root word, a lover of good food. So, gourmand and gourmet related to food love. foodie. Okay. Hedonist, one who believes that sensual pleasure is the chief good. So hedonist is somebody who's just like wine and sex kind of belief system. That's all they believe in. So they are like sensual pleasures are their like driving force of life. That would be a hedonist. Hedonism is actually a belief system. So these people, they just believe in having good time, just again alcohol and sensual pleasures. That's all there is to life for them. Okay. A heretic. A heretic is one who acts against religion. So heretic is somebody who is not some he's not somebody who does not believe in religion, like an atheist. They act against religion. So in ancient times, you might have seen in some history fictions and all that some people were burned, especially in the context of Europe, especially in the context of Europe and all. So they were labeled as heretic, that they are going against religion and hence they should be captured and destroyed. So they were called heretics. So they are considered to be against religion and hence dangerous to society. Heretic. Herbivorous. Again, we did carnivorous, flesh eating. Herbivorous, one that eat herbs or plants and all. So vegetarian, you can just casually remember it as vegetarians. Usually carnivorous, herbivores are used in the context of animals. I'm sure you must have come across these terms in biology books. So most of you must be familiar with these words. Honorary, one who holds a post without any salary. So honorary positions are provided to say senior experts, say professors. They have honorary positions in the university. So they hold a position there, but it's just a position of namesake. So there is some sort of association between the professors and the university, but it's not a paid, like, because they're not regularly taking classes or kind of thing. It's just instituting a chair in their name kind of thing. So it's honorary, just a post without any salary. Okay. Highbrow, a person considering himself to be superior in culture and intellect, a snob. So highbrow is like, when they try to, take their eyebrows high. This is how they, in movies and all, they picture fashionistas or fashion people. So just imagine highbrow, like somebody like this, just keeping their brows high. So they're a snob. They just think they are too superior and everyone else is just nothing. So highbrow is a person considering himself or herself superior to others in culture and intellect. Synonym would be a snob, a highbrow or a snob. Iconoclast. Iconoclast is one who is a breaker of images and traditions. So usually a rebellious kind of person, but it is usually used in the terms of religion mostly. So somebody who is a breaker of images and traditions. Impregnable, that cannot be entered by force. So for example, this word is very common in terms of forts, the big forts that used to be built in old times. So if a fort is impregnable, that means it's so strong and so well built that enemies cannot enter it and hence can save people inside the city or inside the fort. So impregnable, that cannot be entered by force. Yeah. Insolvent. We did this two slides back, very similar to bankrupt, a person who's unable to pay his debts. So we also tried to remember this by example of Anil Ambani. Very not apt, but yet technically correct. So insolvent or bankrupt, somebody who's unable to pay his debts. Invincible, one too strong to be defeated. We have done this word in some, I think, in the previous lectures. Invincible, they are like very strong. So at one point British Empire was considered invincible. They could not be defeated. It was just not possible to defeat them. Invincible. Martyr, martyr is a person who dies for a noble cause. So a martyr, for example, the soldiers who die at the border for fighting for their country, they are martyrs. They die for noble cause. Mercenary is exact opposite, one who does something for the sake of money. So mercenary armies used to exist again, not just in ancient times, even now mercenary armies exist. So you can just pay them money and they'll do whatever you ask them to do. So somebody who does something for the sake of money. Misanthrope. Misanthrope is someone who hates mankind. So, an antonym for this word would be philanthropist or an altruist, also, the word that we did. Namesake, a person having the same name as another. So, for example, if in your class there are two Abhisheks, so one Abhishek is the namesake of the another. So, namesake. Narcissist. I'm sure you guys know this word again, very popular word on social media these days. Somebody who loves him or herself. So, it's not a positive self love, but loving too much of your own self. You just like you become a very egoist and egotist if you're a narcissist. You just love your own self and know you're just very you almost turning insensitive to other people's feeling. So narcissist, again, a very negative word. Novice, one who is inexperienced in something. So novice again is a beginner who is very inexperienced. So a novice, a beginner or inexperienced. Okay. Numismatist, one who collects coins. Numismatist is one who collects coins. Now, can we remember numismatics? Matist. I don't know. I cannot think of any story. If you can, please try to think of a story. Numismatist coins. Optimist, a person who looks at the bright side of things. So an optimist is a opposite of pessimist. So an optimist always looking at the bright side of things, a pessimist always looking at the negative side of things. So in a circle, in a friend circle, there is always an optimist that, oh, I got 33 out of 100 marks, I managed to pass, I did well. A pessimist is like 98 out of 100, where did my 2 marks go? Oh, I'm gonna fail in my exam. Oh, things are not gonna be great, or you something like that. So that would be a pessimist. And optimist is always like, okay, I scored 33. Next time I'll score 35. Eventually I'll reach 50 and I'll be good. 98. A person who's thinking 98. Oh God, next time 95. After that 50, and then someday I might fail also. A pessimist who's just thinking on negative lines. Okay. Orphan. Orphan is one who has lost one's parents. So, orphan. In Bollywood movies, hero was always an orphan because he had lost his parents. So, orphan. Philanthropist. Again, philanthropist very similar to altruist, somebody who loves mankind and who does good for the humanity. So, rich people who give money to NGOs and all, so they are called philanthropists. So, philanthropist. Phylogynist, one who works for the welfare of women. Gyn, you see the word gyn, gyn, phylogynist. So gyn is the root word for women. For example, the women's doctor is called gynecologist or gynac. So gyn, whenever you see gyn, you can just try to understand that there is some sort of association related with the women. So phil is the word for love, and for example, philanthropist here, phil, and anthropist is humanity. Anthrop is related to humanity. For example, study of humankind is anthropology. So anthrop is the root word that you should understand. If you see this, that some sort of humankind association is there. Phil is the word for love. Phil means love. So phil, love. Anthropist, anthrop is mankind, so love for mankind. Phil, love. Gyn is women. So a person who works for the welfare of women. Miss, we had talked about it before. Miss is mostly negative. So miss before Gyn, somebody who hates women, misogynist. So misogynist, phylogynist. So phylogynist is somebody who works for the welfare of women, and misogynist who hates women. Okay. Polyglot, one who speaks many languages. Polyglot, again, polygon, you have heard of polygon, and a quadrilateral which has many sides. So poly is many and glot is languages, like speaking languages. So polyglot. So another synonym could be linguist. So people who study languages are called linguists. So polyglot, someone who can speak many languages. Pacifist, one who hates war and loves peace. So we all love peace and hate war. I can't say the same because I don't know. I've seen people talking about war very casually also sometimes. But pacifist is someone who stands for peace. So P, pacifist, peace, sounding somewhat similar. So pacifist, peace. Somebody who hates war and loves peace, who stands for peace. Pacifist. So suppose there is some uh, uh, tension on the border. Say something happened between two countries who are an adversary to each other. So there will be two group of people. One who will be like, let's wage war and let's teach them a lesson. And then there will be another group of people who will be pacifist. No, no, we should talk and we should try to communicate it to them, or we should maybe go to United Nations and try to talk. So pacifists are the people who love peace and hate war, and they are like always for peace. Pessimist. Pessimist is one who does who looks at the dark side of things. So we've done this before. Optimist and pessimist. Pessimist always looking at the negative aspects. Optimist always looking at the positive of aspects of things. A Philistine. A Philistine is one who does not care for art and literature. Okay, a very rustic kind of person does not care much about art and literature. Posthumous. A child born after death of father, or a book published after death of the author, or an award received after the death of the recipient. So posthumous is something that is done after the death of a person. So posthumous award or a posthumous child. So these are I mean posthumous is like try to remember it from post. So after the life, that is after death. So posthumously awards are given sometimes if the author is already dead by the time. So posthumous award, or if a child is born after the death of one a parent, so posthumous. So it's posthumous. Just try to remember that posthuman. So when after a person is dead, after that that thing is happening. So posthumous. Philatelist. Philatelist, somebody who collects stamps. Pedestrian, you know that one who goes by foot. So there are pedestrian pathways also. Pedestrians. Recluse, one who lives in seclusion. Reclusion, recluse, seclusion. Just try to remember with that. Recluse. Somebody who's living in seclusion, just going in the cave and living an ascetic life. The word ascetic. Somebody who's living a very like simple, non a life away from pleasures. The word. So a recluse. Recluse is not same as ascetic. I just use the word here to remind you of the word that we did a few minutes ago. But recluse is just somebody who's living in seclusion. He doesn't have to live a very simple life. He could have all the amenities in an island, and yet he's living alone on that island in seclusion. That would be a recluse. He's just a living away from people. That's all. A sadist, a person who feels pleasure by hurting others. Sadist, so you like a lot of you must have called your teachers a sadist because they didn't give you good marks. That's not true. There is always some reason behind it, like mostly some reason behind it at least. So somebody who feels pleasure by hurting others, that's a sadist. They want to make other people sad. Sadist. Okay. Samaritan, one who helps the needy and helpless. So Samaritan is a good person, somebody who is very helpful. So a Samaritan is a altruist. He is very helpful. So one who helps the needy and helpless. Samaritan. Somniloquist, a person who talks in sleep. So we have done loqua. Loqua is the root for talking, or the like talking. So somni is sleep. So somni, if you see the word somni, it would mean sleep. Loqua would mean talking. So somniloquist is a person who talks in sleep. Somniloquist, like we did eloquent. So the word qua here again is talking, and eloquent, somebody who's very fluent and very good at talking. Eloquent. So somniloquist. What was the word that we did? Loquacious. So who's somebody who is very talkative? Loqua, talk. So loquacious, talkative person. Stoic, a person who is indifferent to pain and pleasures of life. The stoic is a person who's like not too happy when something great happens, or neither too sad when something bad happens. Say somebody got 3 out of 100, no reaction. He's feeling the same. Somebody got 9, and if the same person got 99 out of 100, again, no reaction. He's feeling the same. So he has no spikes of up or low in terms of emotions. That person would be called stoic. He's very indifferent to pain or pleasure. Life may, whatever happens, whatever thing life throws at this person, his or her emotional graph doesn't spike or go down too much. Their emotional status stays pretty much the same. A teetotaler, somebody who does not take any intoxicating drinks. So they finish all the chakna. These are the teetotalers. I'm kidding. course. So somebody who does not drink alcohol or any sort of intoxicating drugs, so they are teetotalers. So a lot of people who love tea, they call themselves teetotalers. So teetotaler is not just the tea lover, it's just somebody who's like any, if you're not consuming any intoxicating drink, then you're a teetotaler. So a lot of time when there are parties and people are having drinks together, somebody who doesn't drink, they'll be like, no, I'm not going to have this drink because I'm a teetotaler. I can have a juice, I can have tea, I can have coffee, but not alcohol or any intoxicant. So I'm a teetotaler. Veteran, one who has long experience of any occupation. So veterans often you might have heard this term along with the term war veterans. So retired soldiers and all, they are called war veterans. So they have a long experience. They've been in army, they've served in various theaters, they've seen many wars. So they are war veterans. Versatile, one who adopts oneself readily to various situations. Somebody who's very versatile is who's like whatever be the situation, they can change and adapt according to that situation. So that's a versatile person. Virtuoso, one who's brilliant performer on stage, especially music. So virtuoso is again a good performer, a brilliant performer. They are called virtuoso. A verbose, a style face of difficult words. A verbose is somebody, say a verbose person, somebody who doesn't speak much. So that would be a verbose. Okay, a style face of difficult words. I don't know why what I'm trying to write here. Verbose, but somebody who speaks less and who's like that would be a verbose person. Okay. Abdication. So abdication is voluntarily giving up of throne in favor of someone. So whenever there would be a revolution, there would be a demand that the king should abdicate. So basically the king should voluntarily step down from their position. Or in modern days when there is some sort of tragedy that has happened, so abdicating a position. So voluntarily leaving the position. It was mostly used in the case of king. I don't think it's very relevant in modern sense. But yeah, abdicate, voluntarily giving up throne. Okay. Allegory, a story that expresses ideas through symbols. So allegory is a small story full of symbols. So you just try to understand deep meanings via the symbols. I don't know, it's very, very philosophical. Allegory. And it's very difficult to understand also sometimes. Anomaly, departure from common rules. So something is an anomaly means that it's some sort of exception. So it's not very normal. It's not very. It's almost like an exception. So departure from common rule. Aquatic, aquatic. You've seen the Aquaman posters. Animals that live in water. Aquatic. Autobiography again. Autobiography is the life history of a person written by himself. So what is the autobiography of Gandhiji called? My Experiments with Truth. So, this book has been written by Gandhiji about his own self. So, that's autobiography. Biography is when someone else is writing about that person. Autobiography is when the person himself or herself is writing about him or herself. Okay. Anonymous. Anonymous is very popular on social media. There will be some quote written, and at the bottom, there will be written anonymous. That means bearing no name, like that nobody knows who has said this word, but very wise word, you must know what they are. So it will be written in form of quotes and at the bottom anonymous. So a lot of times I remember some of my students, they thought anonymous is a name, so they would write the quote and they would say as said by anonymous, but anonymous means nobody, like you do not know, so you say anonymous, or like not any influential or known person has said these words. So anonymous, it's not a name, it's just means nobody, sort of nobody. Belligerent, one that is in warlike mode. So belligerent state. So suppose there are two nations who are having some sort of tensions, for example, India, Pakistan. So if there is one state that is trying to, provoke the other state, and they're just like readying their missiles and testing their tanks and doing war exercises around the border. So they're in warlike mode. So that would be called a belligerent state. So belligerent in a warlike mood. Biography, as we did with the autobiography, the life history of a person when written by some other person and not by himself. If the person is writing his own life history, then it's autobiography. If other person is writing the life history, then it is biography. Okay. Blasphemy, an act of speaking against the religion. So we did the word heretic, which means somebody who's against the religion, and the actions that they do is blasphemy. So if there is somebody who is involved in blasphemy, he will become heretic, somebody who is against religion. An atheist, which is all sounds very similar, is not a heretic. There's a difference. Atheist just does not believe in God. He thinks that who's God? No, but like, I have not seen God. I do not believe in God. But a heretic is like, I will do whatever totally opposite or against whatever the religion says. So heretic is a problematic person. They indulge in the acts of blasphemy. That is, they would say stupid things about God. They would try to belittle gods and hence provoke the religious people. Conscription, compulsory enlistment of for military service. So in many countries there are compulsory military services. For example, Israel. Israel is a small country and it lives in a very hostile neighborhood. So the countries around Israel are not very friendly towards that country. So they have a conscription. They have a system of conscription, that is mandatory military service. So everybody in the population, barring very few exceptions, they have to serve in military for some period. So some there is a standing army also, but for every person, military service is mandatory. So that in case of war or any emergency, everybody has some military understanding or skills. So that's conscription, compulsory enlistment for military service. It's done for a brief period, for few years, but it is mandatory in some countries, and that is called conscription. Crusade. Crusade is a religious war. Again, in history, you might have heard of crusaders. These were the religious wars fought between Christians and Muslims and many different factions of Christians. And like these were just religious wars, Christians versus pagans and all those. So just wars in name of religion. Those were crusade. There are no, I mean, now also there are many terrorist organizations, they call jihad and all as well, very similar in nature. Crusades, so there are no more crusades anymore, there are jihad and other kind of religious wars. So those kind of things. Ephemeral, lasting for a very short time or a day. Ephemeral, something very temporary. For example, there's a flower that blooms at night, so the fragrance, it stays only for some time, it's ephemeral. Okay, it doesn't, it's not permanent, it's not forever. Ephemeral. So for example, if you don't study and just go around enjoying, so that enjoyment will be very ephemeral, because it's not going to last forever, because then eventually your friends will also go away to some other college and you will be left alone. So that pleasure that you're deriving in not studying and going about playing around or just going to cafeteria and sipping coffees, it's that pleasure is very ephemeral because it's not going to last forever. Okay. uh, Moral also, I thought some moral lectures should also be included between the lectures. So that's there. Epilogue, a concluding speech or comment at the end of the play. So like at the plays or even in many books also, there is a concluding speech kind of thing or some sort of comment, that's called epilogue. And in the starting of a book or a play, I mean, it used to be in the play and nowadays it's there in the books also. That's called prologue. It's again an introducing section that introduces the book or the play. That's prologue and epilogue. Pro again, pre, pro, these words, they reflect the beginning or the starting or something that is in the, yeah, start. And epilogue is again at the end. Okay. Extempore. Extempore is a speech made without preparation. So, back in, I don't know, in many of your schools, you might be having debate competition, extempore competitions. So, in the an extempore competition, a participant goes and picks up a chit, and there is some topic written on the chit, and then they have to instantly speak for like 2 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever, as per the rules of that uh, school or whatever. So they have to give a speech instantly without any preparation. It's also called speaking impromptu, that without any prompt, prior prompt. So that's called speaking impromptu or extempore. Like without any preparation, you just have to speak. Now, fable, a story relating to birds or animals with a moral in the end. So you might have read Panchatantra stories, so they are also fable. So there are birds and animals, and they represent some sort of character, and then there is a moral end. For example, there is the story about clever fox and two monkeys fighting over a chapati. So clever fox just make them fight or and takes away the chapati, something like that. So and then there is at the end of it there is a moral that in the if you keep quarreling, some third person will take advantage of you. So that those kind of stories, I'm sure you all must have heard some or the other story of that sort. So that's a fable. So stories relating to birds and animals with a moral end. Fatal, something that causes death. So driving fast can prove fatal. So something that can cause death. Irreparable, incapable of being repaired. So something that cannot be repaired, irreparable. So it's quite clear from the name itself. Irreparable, cannot be repaired. Indelible, a mark that cannot be erased. So some if something has had an indelible impact on your mind, that means they've had a very strong impact. It cannot be erased. So that's indelible. Okay, a mark that cannot be erased. Indelible. Infallible, one who is free from all mistakes and failures. So your parents at this point, according to them, with respect to their children, they are infallible. They are free from all mistakes and failure. They cannot commit any mistake. Like my mom, she's infallible. Whatever happens in the house is our mistake. So I'm just kidding, of course, not. I want to continue living in my house. So, of course, mom, infallible. And we are the fallible ones because we are the ones who can commit mistakes all the time. Infallible. Fall, there is absolutely no chance of falling, taking mistake. So this part I'm just trying to like make it like more easy for you to remember. But infallible, just somebody who is free from committing mistakes. Okay. Inedible, again, not fit to eat. You must have seen on the many food items it's written edible, not edible, kind of thing. So edible, something that is fit to eat. Inedible, something that is not fit to eat. Maiden, a speech or an attempt made by a person for the first time. So when India successfully performed the Mars rover mission. So it was the in the news it was said in the maiden attempt India successfully performed the Mars mission. So maiden in the first attempt. So that's a maiden attempt or maiden speech, some speech being made for the first time. Manuscript. Manuscript is also a very common word, something that has been written by hand. Manuscript. Now let's do some questions in MCQ format. So it's a relatively less boring exercise. So a medicine that is given to counteract poison, is it antibiotic, antiseptic, antidote, or antifungal? So from the name itself, you can see antifungal is something that is given against fungus, antibiotic something against to fight the bacteria, antiseptic against when like you get some cuts or something. They're saying no, it is said that apply as an antiseptic. So the answer should be antidote. An antidote is a substance that is given to counteract a poison. Even in the movies and all, you might have seen that somebody is given a poison and then they're looking for antidote. So antidote is specifically a substance given to counteract poison. One who hates marriage. A lot of people hate marriage. Many people these days, the whole generation is hating marriage. But there is one word for it, that is misogamist. Gamy is always used for marriage. For example, polygamy, that means having someone who's had many wives, polygamy, many marriages. So misogamist. Miss is always used for negative, not the MISS miss, but MIS miss. So whenever there is miss and gamy is the word for marriage, so misogamy. A misogamist is someone who hates marriage. Okay. A misanthrope we've done is somebody who hates humanity. Misogynist also we've done, somebody who hates women. Polygamist, poly again many, and gamy means that someone who's had several marriages. Polygamist. Thawing of snow. Sludge, slush, slosh, slash. What is that sound called? That is about thawing of snow. So thawing of snow is when there's a bit melting of snow. That's the thawing of snow. So slush is partially melted snow or ice. Slush. Thawing of snow and melting of snow. That is slush. One who specializes in the mathematics of insurance. A statistician, actuary, an agent, an enumerant. I don't know what enumerant is. So a statistician is not a science of insurance. Agent again could be any agent. Actuarials is the science of insurance. So an actuary calculates insurance risk and price. Premiums, sorry. So actuarial is the science of insurance. Somebody who specializes in actuarial is an actuary. Violation of sanctity of the church, infringement, sacrilege, irreverence, transgression. So violation of sanctity of the church, temple, or any religious place, the term is sacrilege. Sacrilege is the violation of something that is sacred. So this word is specifically used for religious places. So if there is some violation of sanctity of any other law or something, that would be infringement. But sacrilege is specifically used for religious places. Okay. Of one mind or opinion, voluntary, referendum, homogeneous, or unanimous. So unanimous. So even in terms of courts, you might have heard of unanimous decision. When everybody is agreeing to that decision, that is a unanimous decision. So of one mind and opinion. So unanimous. One who is always doubting. A skeptic, deist, rationalist, or positivist. So a skeptic. Skeptic person is somebody who is always doubting the beliefs, the accepted beliefs. So skeptic. A collection of slaves, couple, crew, company, or courtier. So the word is couple. I don't know. It doesn't sound very important because slaves are not, it's not a concept anymore. So I think it's good to have a bigger vocabulary for that word. So let's skip this one. A professional soldier hired to serve in a foreign army. Mercenary, venal, liquidator, or hireling. Done this one. Mercenary. Like a mercenary fights for money in a foreign army. So a mercenary. Not likely to be easily pleased. Fastidious, infallible, fatalist, or communist. Communist. So we did this word fastidious because this person is just fast going around. He's not just pleased. He's not stopping. So fastidious. A fastidious person is very hard to please. Very fast, just going around. It's very difficult to stop him because he's not pleased easily. So like that. That's not the root of the word, but it's just a way to remember it. Okay, fastidious. The practice of having many wives. Bigamy, polygamy, polyandry, or calligraphy. So gamy we discussed is the word for marriage. So, bi means two. Poly means many. So two marriage. Bigamy is two marriage. Polygamy. Polyandry is many marriage. Because polygon, many sides for it. Poly. What is polyandry? Polygamy is having too many husbands, polygamy, and polyandry is having many wives. So polyandry. Practice of having many wives. Sorry, polygamy is many wives and polyandry is many husbands. For example, Draupadi is an example of existence of polyandry in ancient India. So polyandry is many husbands and polygamy is many wives. Polygamy means multiple wives. Taking great pleasure. To revel in something, to be satisfied, uphold, or to overhaul. Revel. To revel means to take great joy or pleasure. So satisfied, the word for satisfied we did was satiated. To be satiated, to be satisfied. To take great pleasure means to revel in it. Okay. A strong dislike. Reciprocity, animosity, entreaty, malice. The word is animosity. So if you have a very strong dislike towards something, for example, if you have a very strong dislike for me at this point, that oh God, how many words are we supposed to cover? That would be the feeling of animosity, and I hope that you don't hold that because this was our last slide and we are done with this topic. With this, we come to an end of our topic of one word substitution. I hope you will be left with some stamina to go through this lecture once again, and if maybe you go through this lecture once or twice, you'll remember most of the words, or at least you'll have a sense of a lot of words. So when you come across them, you'll have some sort of inkling that you've heard them and some sort of vague idea about their meaning. So just try to go through them once or twice, maybe. Just even if you're just lying down, just put on the audio and just listen to whatever I am saying in this video, and you'll remember most of the words. So practice is the only way, and that is the only way to success. So with this thought, I will leave you, and I'll see you in another lecture. So goodbye.